Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic Indie Trader interview. It's your Cape Crusader Cody, and we're keeping it geekly with our two new guests. We have Joseph Saraki and Kelly Williams. We're here to break down the life and death of the brave Captain Suave and everything in between. And yeah, this was such an awesome read. I read issue 4, and I had a blast. I love the concept of this. It is such an awesome read. But before we dive into this, let's start with the basics. You know, who are you guys, and how did you get into creating comics?
You want to start, Kelly?
No, you can go.
All right. Well, my story is probably not quite as long as Kelly's. I haven't been creating comics quite as long as him. I am a high school science teacher in Northeast Ohio, and I've been teaching for, I'd say, a bit over a decade. I teach biology and physics right now, and I've been a lifetime comic book fan. I would say within the last, 4 or 5 years or so, I kind of got into my head that I might want to give writing a try. And it was a little bit after that I hooked up with Kelly, and we got our, at least my first book published, A Letter to Joe, through Top Shelf Productions. After that, I had another idea for a science-related book. Hooked up with Jesse Lonergan for that one with humanoids. Ended up getting that one published, and then right around the time that A Letter to Joe came out, Kelly and I we had a really good time working on that project together. We knew we wanted to do something else, and that's when we started developing the life and death of the brave Captain Suave. Ended up landing it at Scout Comics, and it's kind of where we're at right now.
Congratulations on that as well, man.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
So Kelly, what about you? How did you get into creating comics?
The typical, I liked comics. I was a comic fan since a little kid. And when I was a teenager, I don't know, like maybe 13 or 14, I started doing like Xeroxed mini comics. And I did that for a while, and then I kind of drifted away for a bit, and then I came back to it and decided to, make a real go of it in terms of doing it as a job or profession, I guess. And that was like 10, 11 years ago, I think. I got laid off. The place I worked at sold the business and closed down, and it was right around the time I was working on my first graphic novel, The Cabinet, with Christian Sager, and so it all just kind of lined up, and I was like, well, I mean, might as well go all in now. I'm not getting any younger, so and then yeah. It's exciting. It's real exciting.
No, taking that leap, though, that had to have been nerve-wracking for you. Or was it something where you were kind of just ready to embrace it at that time?
I think at that point I was I was ready, but it never stops being nerve-wracking because, anything can happen. You never know. It's comics is not a very stable job. I don't know if you guys are aware of that.
Yeah.
So it never, at least for me, it never gets super comfortable, but I guess you get more confident as time goes on, and so I guess in that sense it gets a little less stressful.
Oh, I gotcha. So Joseph, you said one of your earliest works was A Letter to Joe, correct? Can you give us a little bit of what that was about?
Yeah, so that was my first published story, and it was a graphic novel that Kelly and I developed based on a letter that my grandfather had written my grandmother at the end of World War II, kind of outlining his overall experience in the war. And we took that letter and directly adapted it into a story using his actual words as part of the narrative and then crafting the story around that. So it was a really personal work for me, but turned out pretty good. And Kelly did an amazing job really bringing the story to light. And it was, yeah, it was pretty cool. Just to have this thing that was so connected to me and my family. There's like pictures of my grandparents when they were like teenagers.
Wow.
And some of my grandfather's early war pictures in the back of the book. And like a poem that he had written while he was overseas that we had illustrated, stuff like that. So it was a pretty neat way for me to really like break into my comics writing. So nice way to start. Wasn't necessarily the first thing that I had written or tried, but that was my first published work and my introduction to Kelly.
So how did you two end up meeting? I know this was your first project, but did you do like some sort of like call out or like a post that kind of led you two together?
Yeah, so I had originally hooked up with a different artist on the project, and we did some pitch pages with him.
You did what?
And yeah, Kelly, you weren't supposed to know that. My bad. And we had originally done some pitch pages that I had sent to Chris Steros at Top Shelf, the executive editor there, and he was very complimentary, wanted to see more. That artist didn't end up working out, but I was working with an editor at the time who was familiar with Kelly's work, who thought that he would be really good for the project. And once he showed me Kelly's work, and I completely agreed. And Kelly just kind of started from there, and it was like it was meant to be all along.
So Kelly, when you first received, like, I guess the script for this, how did you feel with it being such a personal project? Was there any weight to it that kind of like made you, I don't know, maybe a little hesitant on taking it? Because it seems like this project just seems so personal. It would be hard for me if I was an artist to want to pick it up.
Yeah. It was, I mean, most of my work up to that point had primarily been like horror and fictional, and any kind of biographical type stuff was my own, like autobiographical or whatever. So the idea of doing something so personal to not only Joe but his like entire family was a little intimidating at first, and it took me a little while to ease into it, but once we kind of got the groove of it, like I relaxed about it a lot, and it was interesting. It was fun. I think, I mean, it's probably like one of the books I'm the most proud of so far in my illustrious career. So
that's awesome. So Joseph, I know you said you previously had an artist that quite didn't work out. So when you got to see Kelly's take on this, making those stories come to life, like how did that feel for you?
Oh, it was incredible. Like, first of all, Kelly's art is, at least for this book, it was completely hand penciled, inked, and watercolored. So it had this just organic touch to it, and then his ability to do likenesses and set scenes without being like, I don't know, too over realistic, which I thought that just the perfect balance for a book with subject matter that's frankly not easy for a reader. I think it just struck the perfect balance. So
was there any like trials and tribulations when taking those letters and poems and crafting them into an actual script? It seems like that could be a little bit of a battle within itself.
Yeah, there was a lot of, I read a lot of like World War II memoirs at the time to kind of immerse myself in the subject matter. Because my grandfather's original letter, while it was super compelling and he paints the picture really well. He doesn't delve into a lot of the personal relationships that he experienced while there, and I think that was probably a conscious decision on his part. I think that was difficult for him. So that aspect, really trying to get in his mindset of him being this 18-year-old kid shipping off to France. I mean, he landed a couple of days on Normandy after D-Day.
Wow.
So he was right there in the thick of it, pushing towards Germany. So just kind of immersing myself in that, trying to put myself in that mind frame. It was a difficult process, but it was also a really rewarding process. Doing that, probably, my grandfather passed away years ago. It was probably the closest I had felt to him in many years.
No, that is such a personal story, and it's awesome. That's how you two kind of met and started really getting to know each other, you know, with this story. And this is what led to the life and death of the brave Captain Suave, correct?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
how did that... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so working on A Letter Joe was really cool, and we kind of built a friendship since then where we can just text back and forth, play games online, and beyond the life and death of the brave Captain Suave, I consider Kelly a friend, and I'm pretty sure we're going to probably do another project together here in the near future.
So Kelly, he found an artist the first time, but it seems like you two are just destined to make this last. I love your style within Captain Suave. And I don't know if it's like that for the other issues. So I mean, right now it'd be like a perfect transition. Let's start breaking it down. Reading issue 4, I really loved just the change of the color palettes from like the first half. It was like dark. Then you started seeing more color and it was like more expressive. What was the direction for that? And is that something we see within the other issues, or was that just kind of done in issue 4?
It's been a while since I looked at it, so I don't. The main visual direction that we went with the entire series is because of the nature of it being like there's your real life and then your fantasy kind of situation. All of the real life stuff I do traditionally, like watercolor, paper, all that, and then the stuff that's like the fantasy is done. It's done on paper as well, but then it's colored digitally using like a dot screen kind of classic, like the old Golden Age comics and stuff, like more in line with that. So it gives a really good contrast between the two worlds, I guess, and it's a shifting story in terms of tone too. Like it goes from pretty heavy to pretty funny, like pretty like abruptly sometimes. So I just try to make it work in terms of keeping that obvious, I guess.
Yeah, I really love your work in this, and I wanted to start with that because when I had the chance to read it and scrolling through it, I was just taken back by how well it blended together, and just the result was just absolutely gorgeous.
Well, thank you.
In case your listeners aren't aware of the basic conceit of the book, it's a homeless man living in Cleveland, Ohio, who believes himself to be a real life Golden Age superhero. So when Kelly refers to the reality versus the fantasy, the reality is what's actually happening at street level versus what he thinks is happening in his head. So you'll see from panel to panel what's actually happening versus his superhero antics that are going on, at least what he thinks is going on.
Absolutely, and that was a perfect segue for me, because I was just getting ready to ask about that. So is that based upon like any real life experiences within Cleveland? I remember I took my significant other there once, and we somehow ended up on the east side, and things got pretty chaotic pretty fast. So I'm curious, any real life like nods to Cleveland within this?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So the story is absolutely grounded in the city. The city plays a huge role in the story itself. Locations, we have a lot of real life locations. The buildings and housing are meant to reflect that of the city. And Cleveland, not only do I live in Cleveland and do I have a love for the city, but Cleveland, many people may not realize, is a city that's steeped in comic book history. In fact, you could certainly make the case that the entire superhero genre in the golden age began here in Cleveland, Ohio, with Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel and the creation of Superman.
That's awesome, and it's continuing with Joseph and Kelly now. Like, how beautiful has that circle came full round? Kelly, what was when you first got this script and you started working on character designs, what type of idea were you first working on when you got that opportunity?
How do you mean?
Just in general, like, was there anything like you were going for within your mind? Because I know we make the transition from like real day to like that golden age aspect. So like, what were you trying to aim for with some of your first sketches when you were creating these characters?
Right. Well, I guess the key element there would be the golden age thing. So we wanted the hero version to be something that, I don't know, kind of had elements of lots of the popular characters like from that time. So, you know, kind of pulled from obviously Superman and Captain America. I guess actually that's mainly those, but the idea just being like something new that was familiar, you know, and then like when we first kind of started to pull it all together, I don't know, like if we were, I suggested that we do this thing with the two different styles, and I think we were all kind of like, I don't know, maybe it'll work, I don't know. And so I started spending some time with that, but I think that it just kind of works. Like, it's I don't know. It works. That's what I got.
And then the other, if I could add to that, the other aspect that I think he captures in it is we are very, we make no bones about it. At the beginning of every single issue, there is a quote directly from Cervantes' Don Quixote, because essentially it's the same concept. Don Quixote, if you're not familiar with the novel, he believed himself a knight errant, and he was trying to go about being a knight errant. Well, our main character believes himself to be a superhero, so he's trying to go about the city and be a modern day superhero. So I think the emblem on Captain Suave's chest kind of pays a bit of homage to that, and I think the character himself too is a bit of a Don Quixote-esque look to him.
Yeah, yeah. He's got the mustache and the little beard.
We call it the Quixote.
I just are we allowed to talk about issue 4? Is it okay? Like, not super spoily, but just a part of it?
Yeah, you can talk about anything. So I think you're actually referring to issue. So issue 4 is out. I think you're referring to issue 5 that I sent you.
Okay, yeah. In issue 4, there was a part from the Raptors that I loved in particularly, where Captain Suave Suave is jumping down, and you have the superhero golden age, and then you have the realistic side by side, and I just thought it was so awesome the way that he did the superhero landing in the 1950s version, and then he just fell on his face pretty much in the realistic. I just love how you guys did that and complimented each other, and superheroes are a big beacon of like power and strength and everything. I'm curious, why make him homeless?
Well, so The original conceit of Don Quixote was he was a fairly wealthy man, but he gave all that up to travel about and to be a knight errant. So we thought kind of tackling that along with our hero, and at the same time showing someone who you wouldn't necessarily think as being heroic doing what frankly are heroic deeds. I mean, our main character, Captain Suave, he wants nothing more than to actually make a difference and help people. So while we are satirizing superheroes a little bit, at the heart of it, our hero is wanting to do good for people and for the city. So I think it was important that we showed that a little bit as well.
Absolutely. We have Immortal Rising Comics stopping in to say hi. Welcome to the stream. For everyone that is watching, right here is the link. We have issue 5 dropping. You guys said within the next 2 weeks, correct?
Yeah, it should be 2 weeks from today at the latest, the 22nd.
So right there is the link. Be sure to check it out. If you're able to pre-order it, we would love to see that. But simply putting this on Facebook and Twitter, anywhere you can, word of mouth is 100% free, and we would love to try to get as many eyes on this as possible. So, I mean, right now we're about to hit we're hitting issue 5. Is this kind of like the end of the series for you, or are you guys planning on taking this a little bit further?
Well, if you when you guys read issue 5, you'll see at the end, this is not the end of Captain Suave's story. It is, and was originally conceived as a 10-issue miniseries. So there is actually 5 additional issues already written. So his story is not quite over. And I will say, for those individuals that are checking out the website, Scout actually has a free version of the ash can still available on our main site there. So people can get a nice free preview of an 8-page standalone story that Kelly and I did for the ash can, and get a good feel of what this story is like, what it's about, and kind of see if they like it.
No, that is awesome. So before we move on from this, I do want to talk a little bit about the creative process a little bit as well. So when you came out with the script and, currently working, on issue 5, issue 6 and so forth, how does that look like between you two, going from script to, paper? Is there a lot of change, or Joseph, do you have kind of like an idea of how you want it to fall out?
I hand Kelly full scripts that I've worked on. I usually work through like 3 different drafts before I hand it off to him, and then Kelly he interprets it and does whatever he needs, and we've become a lot more streamlined, I feel like, with the entire process since working together so closely on A Letter to Joe, and throughout this process, that I feel pretty confident that whatever he's going to do is going to be a heck of a lot better than what I'm putting down on the page. So I'm happy to make any adjustments as necessary if he agrees with that wholeheartedly. And then when he gets the art, usually he'll send roughs, and we'll talk about those a little bit, and then I'll make adjustments to the script once we have the finished art for our. I want to make sure that we mention our incredible letterer as well, Taylor Esposito, who employs a number of different styles throughout this book to capture not only the reality, but the golden age aspects of the fantasy as well. Taylor worked with us also on A Letter to Joe, so it was cool to get that entire team back together on Captain Suave.
Yeah, once you get something good, I mean, why deviate from that? You got to keep going with it, right? We have my mom over on Facebook actually dropping in. Maybe this is a good question for Kelly. Do you guys ever bump heads? No, my mom. Do you ever bump heads on ideas? Like, I know, Joe, you said you often give out a full script, but has there been any times where you guys have butt heads, or maybe an idea didn't really pan out the way you wanted it to?
Kelly, do you want to take that one?
Well, I mean, we don't.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever really come up against anything major like that. But there are times that I'll suggest that we do something different than how it's laid out in the script or whatever. But it's usually so much better than his idea that he just goes with it.
No, that is
Yeah,
awesome.
I
And,
know
I
A
mean,
lot of pushback.
I can
Go
think of
ahead.
a few times where it was like you're like, oh, this page is giving me a heck of a time, and you were having a real hard time with things, so we had to, definitely change some things up here and there. But yeah, I don't think there's ever been a time where like we came to blows on anything or anything like that.
So Kelly, you said mentioned earlier you did a lot of traditional work in watercoloring with this. How does that process look like for you when you are creating these pages and panels?
I do all of my layouts digitally, and I don't really usually go in and pencil them. If I do that digitally as well, but I do all of the layouts at size basically, and then I just flip them and print them on the back of the board, and then I put it on a light box, and I just go from there. Sometimes I'll pencil it in just to make sure I'm not going to screw it up. but yeah, and then I do that, and then I'll usually go through and ink the whole issue, and then go back and watercolor the whole issue, and then I'll scan it all, and then I'll do all of the digital aspects of it, I tend to just do it all at one thing all the way through on each step, just so I don't get turned around on it, I guess.
Watercoloring it seems like it's such an intricate process. Is that done traditionally or digitally for you?
It's traditional.
So I mean, like, shoo, are you ever? I know you mentioned before that you do get nervous, but is it ever like a sweaty time doing that? It's like watercoloring seems like there's so much more room for error than the other styles of art.
Well, I mean, sure. I tend to paint, paint it in. It doesn't. A lot of my stuff doesn't have the stereotypical watercolory look, I guess. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but
No, I gotcha.
I think maybe what it is that I've just done it so much at this point that I don't think about it as much now. When I first did it, it was pretty intimidating at the start, and but there's so much work that goes into a comic. So even just doing one issue, 22 pages like that, by the time you come out the other end of it, you're not really going to be thinking about it anymore.
Yeah. No, that is awesome. For everyone watching,
I've had I was gonna say I've had the opportunity. So Kelly and I have done a couple of comic book shows together. So I've had the opportunity to watch him do commissions live when he's commanding the watercolors, and it's pretty cool to watch the control that he has, or he just makes it look like he has control, and there's a lot of great happy accidents. I'm not entirely sure. He did let me play with his paints a little bit, and I can attest that it is not easy. I drew a wonderful siren commission for some people that were very disappointed by that wasn't the kind of siren that they meant. So Kelly made him a better one.
Oh, that's funny. Everyone watching right here is the link to check out this book on Scout Comics. Be sure to pre-order it today if you're unable to. Once again, just sharing this wherever you can would help just as much. As many eyes on this project is what we're trying to do today. So thank you guys for that opportunity as well. So, talking about this awesome book, we have issue 5 coming out. What else is up your guys' sleeve for 2023? Any other projects that you guys are looking forward to working on or maybe announcing?
Yes. I'm currently working on a new series, creator-owned thing for Mad Cave.
Ooh.
That with Bob France and Kevin Koofy. I can never remember how to pronounce his last name, but they did that Metal Shark Bro book. But anyways, yeah, I'm doing that with them. It's not announced yet, but it's coming. this year sometime. And I got a couple other things that will be announced pretty soon. Like, I just realized like I can't actually say anything about it.
Oh, hey, that happens. That happens. It has to be good if there's an NDA behind it. So, Joseph, what about you? What's up on your slate for 2023?
Nothing concrete at the moment. I'm working on a couple of different pitches with a few different artists, Kelly included, and Jared Cullum and Carl Smolinski. So I got a couple things in the works, but at the moment, just finishing out with Captain Suave here. Again, we have the first 4 issues currently out, issue 5 coming out in the next few weeks, and then we're looking for the trade release sometime around October.
Congratulations on that as well. That has to be an awesome feeling to have finally gotten to this point and get a big trade out of it. How many years have you guys been working on this for?
Consecutively, that's hard to say. It's kind of been an on and off thing, I'd say, here and there, but I don't know, maybe a year or so.
Wow,
Yeah,
a year?
Well, I mean, I drew, we did the entire first issue before we had a publisher. When
Right.
we pitched it, we just decided it'd be better to have the whole issue done. And so we did that issue, and then I went and worked on some other stuff while we were pitching it and everything. And that process probably took a better part of a year, I would think. And then once we landed with Scout, I still had, a commitment to finish up at Mad Cave with Bountiful Garden. And once I finished that, I came back to this. And I think I don't remember if there was anything else between, but so yeah, like it was probably a couple years, I guess. I don't know.
Still impressive to be at this point, to have like a trade paperback coming out, like with all of them collected. That's awesome.
Yeah, excited to have it out there, and hopefully people check it out.
No, absolutely. So before we let you guys go, I always love asking guests for a piece of advice for anyone who might be new or even seasoned that's listening. So for anyone out there who's maybe having a hard time just getting motivated and going with what they're doing, whether it's writing or the art, side of things, what type of advice would you offer them just to help them get that little kick to help push them over that barrier?
I mean, for me, I would just say, just do it. Like, if you want to make something, you want to write something, you want to draw something, just go ahead and do it. You don't need anybody's permission to, tell your story or write your story or draw, or you just go out and do it. Maybe you find a publisher, maybe you don't, but there's certainly a number of ways that you can get that out there now.
Yeah. The best advice I think you can give anybody that's maybe just starting out or whatever is, if you want to make comics, you have to make comics. Like, if you want to work with a publisher or something, work for hire stuff, whatever, they're gonna want to see the work. They're gonna want to see that you can tell stories, visually or just written. And with social media and everything available to us now, like there's always somebody looking for somebody to collaborate with, to put something together. And it's not easy. It's hard. Like making comics is hard. It's a lot of work, but it can be very disheartening sometimes when you're trying to find your place in all of it, and trying to make your way into whatever it is you're looking for from it. And you're gonna get discouraged probably. There's gonna be times where you're mad at everybody, and that's all natural. Like we all go through it, but you know, you just got to push through it. Like it's you, if you want to make comics, you have to really want to make comics.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like something, you know, that you, I mean, if you're wanting to do it professionally or whatever, like, you know, it's not something that you just do when you feel like it. Like you have to be ready to work on those days that the last thing you want to do is sit and work, you know. Like you've got to learn, you've got to force yourself into a certain amount of discipline on everything. And believe me telling you all this is like one of those, I love to give the advice, but I don't listen to myself like 90% of the time. So, but yeah, you just, you know, you roll with the punches and you make comics. And if you do that, you know, things work out.
I think pushing through and knowing when to push through, the discipline to push, you know, to force yourself through it often always pays off. And I think that is great advice as well. I know today, you know, we have 2 cats in the house. I'm like deathly allergic to cats. I grew up with cats somehow, you know, 33 years into the future, it just all of a sudden like, hey, now you're allergic. Flooring it to Walmart to get some Flonase before the show because I was just like gooping up. And it was just one of those things, like, this was such an awesome show, and had I have called off because of those allergies and because I was afraid of sniffling and sneezing, I would have missed this opportunity. And I am glad, you know, opportunities like this don't happen all the time, and this was such an awesome chat. Everyone
Cody,
watching it.
We have 2 things in common now. Not only are we both from Ohio, but we're both allergic to cats.
Both allergic to cats. And I got the Flonase on hand. So with that being said, guys, right here is the link to check this awesome book out today. It is New Comic Book Day. You have no reason not to pre-order. But if that wallet is a little tight, sharing it is 100% free, and we would love to see it. Joseph, Kelly, thank you all for swinging by and hanging out with us. Everyone watching, I hope you all have an awesome Wednesday. But most importantly, guys, keep it geekly. All right, give me 1 second. We're going to end the recording.